Okay, now I want us to look at the most important way to compare fractions. Now, on a couple videos ago, I actually compared the numbers 2/5 and 3/8, and we did them with a drawing, but some numbers are hard to draw as the denominators get larger. Sometimes things get harder to compare. And in fact, if you're not a particularly neat drawer, you don't space it perfectly, which can be hard. The drawings aren't always the easiest way. We talked about benchmarks on the last one, but what I want us to notice here, these aren't unit fractions. They don't have a common numerator, denominator, and we use the benchmark of 1/2, but 2/5 and 3/8 are both less than 1/2. And so if we want to really be sure we've got this right, we're going to make common denominators. The reason I've waited till the end is there's some other strategies where you don't have to make common denominators. But if you're ever stuck on a comparing fraction problem, this way always works, and it's really the most important way to know how to do. And so it's kind of like this. Imagine if we were in a pizza eating contest, and I ate 2/5 of my pizza, and you ate 3/8 of your pizza. Well, that would be a kind of a strange way to have a pizza eating contest, because we're eating pizzas that are different sizes. If we remember going back to when we drew these in pizzas, we said that 2/5 would look like this. It was 5 equal parts, and I ate 2 of them. And you even notice my drawing's not perfectly equal. That's hard to do. And 3/8, we'll do those in blue, will look like this. And it's very hard to tell who ate more pizza because, well, if I ate 2/5, I ate fewer pieces than you, but my pieces are bigger. And we did do them on a bar model, and it was a little bit easier, but our bar model drawings may not be perfect. The easiest way to judge who would win a pizza eating contest would be to see if we both ate pieces the same size. Because think about it, if all the slices were the same size, how would we decide who ate the most pizza? Well, all you'd have to do is see who ate the most pieces. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make our 2/5 and 3/8 into what we call a common denominator. What if the pieces were the same size, or what if the denominator was the same? And to do that, we have to use some of our knowledge of equivalent fractions. And so let's talk about that. We'll have 2/5 is the same thing as 4/10, which is the same as 6/15. You notice I'm just counting by 2's on the top and 5's on the bottom because we can do that. We can multiply the numerator by 2 or by 3 and the denominator by the same thing. These are all the same value. We could say 8/20ths or 10/25ths or 12/30ths or 14/35ths, or we could have 16/40ths. And oh, look, see, 16 is 2 times 8, and 40 is 5 times 8. And we've worked with equivalent fractions before to know that. These are all the same thing. And then when we do 3/8, well, that's the same as 6/16, isn't it? Which is also the same as 9/24. You notice we're just counting by 3's on the top, on the numerator, and by 8's in the denominator. It's the same as 12/32. If you simplify all these fractions, you get 3/8. It's the same as 15/40. 3 times 5 is 15, and 8 times 5 is 40. And at this point, I notice something. I notice that 16/40 is the same as 2/5. And I noticed that 15/40 is the same as 3/8. And so if we had eaten the same size pieces, where both pizzas were cut in 40 pieces, we see that I would have eaten 16 pieces and you would have eaten 15 pieces. And so, of course, since I rigged the question, you knew I was going to win the pizza eating contest, but you recognize this, that 16/40 is more than 15/40. That's easy to tell because 16 is bigger than 15. Well, that means that 2/5, which is 16/40, is more than 3/8, which is 15/40. And so that shows that if you have a common denominator, then you can, it becomes much, much easier to compare fractions. And we see that 2/5 is greater than 3/8.